Hello folks, welcome to another Baker Bit. I'm here with my friend Charlie Bunting. Charlie and I did a spider rigging video on Truman a few days ago, and I promised you in that video that I'd do a Baker Bit on the rig that Charlie ties. You've seen my earlier Baker Bit, or I hope you have, that I did on how I tie my rigs. One's basically a Caps and Coleman rig using a three-way swivel at the top, or a Kentucky rig where I have the weight at the bottom and the hook above it. Charlie ties a completely different rig. It has a dropper loop and a jig or hook on the bottom, but he uses no hardware, no three-way swivel, and he'll tell you why he does that versus having that swivel up there, and he's going to show us how to tie. Hello, Charlie.
Hello. Right off, the reason I started tying that is like we were fishing in your video. We were fishing timber.
Right.
And our always go-to has been structure fishing. You know, when hummingbird come out with side imaging, we can find our structure, then they come out with a 360. So now we're putting our jigs directly in the timber.
You're not open water fishing for the most part.
No, so I'm doing this rig here, it's for timber, brush piles. So I want this where I can slide over and I can get in it and not get hung up in it.
All right. So
with that being said, I will show you how I do it.
Right. Now, typically what line size and type do you use for your rig?
On my main line, I'm running either a 10 or 12 high-vis vicious. Same thing you got here.
Right.
Okay, on my rig that I'm tying, I'm going to run a 6 or 8 pound.
Clear or high-vis, or does it matter to you?
It don't matter. I usually use clear, but them fish don't care what color it is in 90% of the water you're fishing. Now, if you're in a real clear water situation, then I would go with clear line.
Right.
But normally, you know, down Lake the Ozarks, I've shot a lot of docks with the high vis because I got to be able to see my line because I want to see that little twitch. And I've found down there with 6 foot visibility, the high vis makes no difference whatsoever.
I agree with you 100% on that. You use a smaller line size on your rig versus your main line on the reel because
if it breaks, I want that to break. I want my main line to stay intact.
Right.
So if I'm using a lighter line and I get hung up, it'll break off there instead of breaking off. And a lot of times you'll see where the way I tie, it's going to break. If this gets, I've got a lot of times that it's got hung up on the one hook's hung up and I've got a fish on the other one.
Right.
It breaks on the one that's hung up and I'm still able to catch the fish.
Makes sense. Show us how you tie your rig. Now, I've got some heavier line here. He may have a devil of a time using this. This is 20-pound high-vis line just for purposes of hoping that the camera will be able to pick the line up a little bit better. But typically, you won't have this heavy a line.
No,
all right,
never. Okay.
Show me typically how
I'm going to come up about 2 feet, and then I'm going to just go an overhead knot 3 times. I'm going to go through the hole 3 times. Let it pull it tight.
All right, and so that just gives you a loop.
That's my loop that I'm going to tie my main line onto.
All right.
And then I'm going to come down here. Normally brush pile fishing, I'm not going to go over about 18 inches with my Wacom Series hook.
Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit more here.
Okay, so there's my loop. That's about 1 foot. That's about 18 inches, I'm guessing. All right, I'm just using a polymer knot.
Okay, yeah, you'd run that line through the eye twice, one in, one out to create a loop so you can tie a polymer knot.
Right, and then I'll pull it tight.
Okay. Cut your tag end off.
I always like to cut these as close as I can. All right, I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna cut this off.
Now I noticed you hadn't cut this line off from the spool yet, and that's because you're going to come back and use part of that.
I'm gonna cut that there. This is gonna be my minute hook.
Okay.
Or if they are biting on jigs all the time,
right,
I will put a 16th or a 3/32 jig head up here.
All right.
But 90% of the time that we're rigging, we're running straight minute rig up here.
Okay.
That's always given their choice. Now, if I'm doing real heavy timber, I'm going to pull this in as tight as I can get it, and I'll explain why here in a minute. So I'm going to have this hook about an inch from polymer knot on it also.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to try to get this line as tight as I can get it, which I still got about 4 inches with this heavy line.
Right. A little tough to work with that line.
Pull it tight. Okay. There's my rig. My minnow hook, 18" there, my Wacom series hook.
Okay.
Okay. Now, on when I tie this to my main line, I'm going to use this 10-pound because it'll work a little better.
Right.
All I do there, come in.
You just threaded through the loop you'd made in your rig.
Right.
Now you're just twisting your loop on your rig around.
My fingers aren't wanting to work. Pull that tight. There. That's what we got.
Okay.
Now, with that, if I get coming over a brush pile, it's nothing to catch. The only thing it's going to catch is going to be this hook or this hook.
All right.
And if you get a bite, I don't know why, but this, looping it 3 times, is a stronger knot than this polymer knot down here and here. So if I get this one hung up here and I get a fish here, when I pull 3/4 the time, I'm gonna catch that fish on this hook.
Because you're going to break that off.
So that's gonna break off here,
Yeah.
or vice versa.
Right.
If this is hung up and I've caught it down here on my jig, here, this stays.
Got it. So you'll break that off and keep your jig.
I just come up with this. Prior to this, I used Captain Coleman rigs all the time. Of course, B&M sponsors us, so we get them. They're all tied identical. They're strong. They're good.
Right.
So I always use those. But when I come up with this, I like this better.
Okay. And you typically use what size jig on the bottom?
When we started pouring our own, the 5/16, we do that because made those just for this rig.
That's the weight you like on the
We
bottom.
like that on the bottom, and that's no other weight. I mean, that's all we're running is this 5/16 down here at the bottom.
Okay. And now, when you say we, and full disclosure, Charlie's running these Muddy Water Wacom series jig heads that his son Travis Bunting owns the company.
Yes.
And you and Travis came up with this jig
Yes.
and this style of head and used them for years. And I know you were pretty secretive about it because I used to try to sneak a peek at what you were using. And they finally decided to commercially make these or have them commercially made for muddy water baits, right?
Yes.
And so they come in, what different sizes do they come
Well, right now they're coming at 1/8, 3/16, quarter, and 5/16.
Okay.
We have got them coming out, should be out by the 1st of December in a 1/16.
That'll be
Whereas these has got a 2-aught Eagle Claw hook in them.
right.
The 16th is going to have a 1-aught in it. And they assured me that they will have them done by December 1st.
Great. I look
So-
forward to getting those.
They should be in the stores by Christmas.
And on your straight hook, what hook do you typically use?
This right here, this Eagle Claw.
Eagle Claw, laser sharp. It's got a bend in it. It's a rotating hook, correct?
Yes.
And I don't know if you can see that, but we'll hold that up there. Now this is a 1/aught hook. What size do you typically use?
I like the 1-aught, unless I'm down fishing, the Grenada, the big lake fish, those, then I'm going to go with a 2-aught.
All right.
But the 1-aught is the minnow hook that I like to use most of the time.
Okay. Before I let you go, I'm going to try you for some secrets. What's your favorite color jig head on your hook?
Well, that's orange has always been our go-to color.
Right.
Orange or pink. Now that we got live scope, I have been using a lot of white in clear water and a lot of black.
Really?
Yes, with these that they've got glow eyes in them. And I don't know if that black and glow eye makes a difference, but I would have never thought when Travis wanted to make these in white and black that I said, we ain't gonna be able to sell them. And they are selling really good. And so, you
got them in pink and chartreuse, but you found the black and the white to be productive
yes,
colors.
real good, real productive.
And you can see now, or we can see, we put that jig in front of the fish, how he reacts to it.
Yes.
Of course, there's his secret favorite color used to be orange.
And it still is. I mean, it's my go-to color, but especially in murky water. But I've been real surprised how good the black and white is working.
All right, so that's Charlie's rig. Like I say, let me cut that off so I can hold that up and show it to you. I hope you could see that on the video. He's got a dropper, or he's got a loop at the top that he ties his main line to. He's got a dropper leg that comes off with his eagle claw rotating hook coming down to his Wacom series muddy water jig head. And like I say, it's a matter of personal preference and what works for you. I guess his will work okay. They've only won 3 crappie national championships using this rig. Is that right?
The last one we was using that one. I wasn't tying it on the first 2.
Okay. All right. So they've only won 1 national championship using this rig. The point is, it works. They've improved over time, and give it a try. I think you'll like it. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.